Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the world's best investing podcast. Today, I want to explain why I've been saying for years that Palantir is going to be a $20 trillion company. You'll see on the screen now this post I made roughly nearly a year ago now, in which I said that Palantir had 100x potential from those levels. Simultaneously, you had everyone saying that it was time to trim. And of course, only one call has been directionally right. And what was happening and continues to happen is that most of the stock market participants are actually more impressed with Palantir's price action than they are with the fundamentals. They fundamentally do not understand the company, and they don't understand why this company is a singularity scaler. Now, as you know, I've been saying also for the past 6 months, as institutional investors that sold the bottom have been calling for a bubble, that we are not in fact in a bubble. What we are seeing is accelerated value creation processes, because the economy is largely about people processing information in order to take decisions that maximize output while minimizing input. Humans are actually quite bad at that, or at least the vast majority of humans. And of course, per the nature of our brains, we have very low context. So we can't possibly optimize as much as a neural net. And as you know, neural nets are getting exponentially more capable. So what we see is just more value delivered to end customers per dollar spent. You do appreciate that business models are healthy because you see free cash flow per share rising exponentially. The free cash flow per share of singularity scalers is increasing exponentially because they don't have to do much in relative terms to exponentiate their pricing power. They have an absolute data advantage. They have more and better data than anyone else for the specific problem that they are trying to solve / they solve in the economy. And as they plug subsequent versions of LLMs, so all the way from ChatGPT 1 to 50, say a few years from now, they multiply the earning power without really doing much to achieve such a large increment. Now, Palantir is really a prime example of that. Excuse me, is a digital twin company. Digital twins are exhaustive copies of your company's analog operations. So it's like if you were to literally upload your company up into the cloud, and every single action, every single thing that happens gets recorded and turned into data. That's what then allows you to plug neural nets and automate stuff, because the neural nets can learn from these problems. And so if you look at Palantir's free cash flow per share, which you can see on the screen now, free cash flow per share is going up exponentially as Palantir has brought innovations that have enabled the company and the platform to leverage AI technologies. LLMs recently, starting with the onset of AIP, which is really where the inflection that you see on the screen begins. And so now, per every advancement we have in AI models, and roughly the doubling in capacity every 6 months, the earning power of Palantir goes up exponentially for a number of factors. One, the platform gets easier, much easier and less costly to install. Two, the platform itself delivers more value to customers because it just has more and more AI capabilities. So linear thinking has been failing investors here. This is something, it's also a tendency that something people have a tendency to believe during bubbles. But that's why investing is not easy. And if you think in terms of analogies and you have knee-jerk reactions, you either fall prey to bubbles or you fall prey to thinking that something is a bubble when really you're actually missing on tremendous value creation processes. So if you take my logic there in terms of the value creation process, AI is making digital twins from Palantir exponentially easier to deploy, exponentially more valuable. And as I was saying, if models double in their capacity every 6 months, and I think that pace is actually accelerating, and they exhibit an increasingly generalized intelligence, how many times does the capacity have to double for the capacity to increase 100-fold from here? Roughly 6 times. I believe it's 6.3 times. So the trajectory the company is currently on is actually quite appealing. And you could say that even from these levels, once again, which is pretty ironic and quite funny, even from these levels, the earning power is likely to go up 100-fold in, say, 3 years' time. At the beginning, I was thinking about this in terms of a multi-decade story. Even if it happens in that time frame, it's still a massive success. But per the way AI is evolving, and you guys know I've been covering For example, AI's emerging mathematical capabilities. I've been telling you how I deploy this technology in my business. I analyze all kinds of businesses across the board. Per the way this thing is evolving, it's actually, I think, going to happen a lot quicker. So yesterday we had Jensen coming out and saying that Palantir is the sort of top enterprise software thing in the world. There is nothing like it. He came out and praised it. And he also said that we're not in a bubble. So you will see that his train of thought is very different to people saying, and this is like 2000, 2001 in terms, excuse me, of animal spirits. He's actually talking about value delivered to end customers. A question you have to ask, you have to ask to yourself is, are you paying for AI services? Do you find yourself having the urge to pay more for them? Are you using them more and more? Are the people around you paying more for them and using them more and more? The answer to all of that is invariably yes, unless you live under a rock somewhere. And so what we are seeing is actually very different to 2001. Check out Jensen's remarks. I'll leave you with him now.
I don't believe we're in an AI bubble. And the reason for that is we're going through a natural transition from an old computing model based on general purpose computing to accelerated computing. We also know that AI has now become good enough because of reasoning capability, research capabilities, its ability to think. It's now generating tokens and now generating intelligence that's worth paying for, to the point where I'm paying lots of it. Cursor is all over NVIDIA. Every single one of our engineers use it. We pay lots and lots of money for it, and we're delighted to do it. And Cursor is just one of the applications. You know, what is it? 11 Tech, I forget, but anyways, all of these different AI models that we're using plenty of services and paying happily doing it.
All right, so that's what Jensen said. And as you see, he's focused on value creation processes. You can say he's biased because he owns NVIDIA. He's the guy that runs it. And obviously, if NVIDIA is in a bubble, that would cause some turmoil, corporate turmoil, maybe, in terms of financing and stuff. But actually, if you look at NVIDIA's forward price to earnings ratio, it's trading below Costco and companies like that. So it's I think what's really happening here, and what has happened with Palantir and continues to happen, is that people are having knee-jerk reactions because linear thinking is not working. And the primary thing that makes linear thinking not work is that AI is doubling in capacity every 6 months, very much against the odds. Historically, we've had AI springs and winters, but for now, this thing just keeps on going. And we have new AI workloads emerging in the background, such as the one I was talking about a few weeks ago, where AIs have the ability to self-improve themselves. That's a bit of a redundancy, but you guys know what I mean. And so this very much continues to accelerate. Now, when I say the 100x thing, the other linear thought people have is, well, 100x from wherever, say, is larger than the GDP of the US. But if you think about what people truly do in the economy today, it's very ironic and it's very funny. But people process whatever information they can, and they take precarious decisions to optimize a very large optimization problem, which happens at various layers of reality. They have to optimize their situation as an employee. They have to get stuff done and get paid. But then at a higher level of abstraction, the company has to minimize inputs and maximize outputs. And then at a higher level of abstraction, the actual economy, the whole country, the whole nation has to move forward. Humans just do not have the context to do that. And so what we think is this sort of big, insurmountable economic block, which is GDP today, in my opinion, as I said in yesterday's video, is just going to get compressed into an API. It's such precarious, primitive activity, most of it, that we have today. And so Palantir is going to be really just the key. It's pretty hilarious, but it's going to be the primary enabler of that. The way you can solve that optimization problem at the highest level of abstraction as a nation, and then as you go down at the corporate level, is you need to have full context of a company's operations. You need to have that data very neatly stored longitudinally with no silos, so you can just plug AIs, and AIs just get exponentially better at automating the processes that today conform the economy. So what we're going to see, I think we're seeing this already, right? With the graph I showed you yesterday, which is a disconnect between price action and employment. We're going to see people having to move into higher creative realms. At the moment, most jobs are not creative. They are simply repetitive tasks that computers are getting increasingly better at doing. So, and again, if you go back to that graph, I would say, well, perhaps that this actually indicates a likely correction because, maybe the economy isn't doing great. That's why there's not so many job openings, and the S&P 500 just continues to march up. So there's clearly a disconnect. But then if you go back to free cash flow per share, which is really what companies' stock prices track, it's pretty healthy. Debt levels are not going up so much. Corporate debt, what is going up is cash production. And so what's increasingly, it's looking increasingly likely, like this narrative that we are in a bubble. So I was saying, it's brought about by linear thinking. Linear thinking is going to continue failing so long as AI scaling laws persist. And then we have a large part of the market, which is institutional investors that sold the bottom. And so they are going to be increasingly, my prediction, although I don't really care, but I think it's interesting. My prediction is they're going to be increasingly unable to pursue the bubble narrative. The whole reasoning by analogy thing is breaking down. We have earnings coming up next week. We'll see how that is doing. But for now, earning power and free cash flow per share of these companies is tracking the acceleration of value creation processes brought on by the onset of increasing AI capabilities, doubling every 6 months. So if, like Jensen, like me, you focus on value creation processes, the only logic is that Palantir, among other companies, is going to get exponentially bigger. And then there's a number of mechanics happening which actually facilitate that, as I've said many times. One of them is the fact that the platform is getting verticalized. So you guys know they have a digital twin, which is just for manufacturing. It's called Warp Speed. And now you see Warp Speed being used across a growing volume of use cases. So actually sub-verticals within defense manufacturing. Last year, we saw Anduril using it. Recently, we saw some company whose name I forgot using it for ships. And so we are seeing the fractal verticalization of the operating system. Palantir is basically a platform of operating systems. And what that does is, one, accelerate the distribution further, two, deliver more value to customers per dollar spent if they are within the vertical in question. So it's like, say, I don't know, say, you have a healthcare company and the healthcare company is just made of, it runs on Excel. That's a very generic OS. Then eventually it runs on HIMSS. That's fairly generic too, but less so because you have many conditions. Then out of that, you have an ontology that's just for the immune system. And then out of that, you have an ontology that's just for T cells or just B cells or just natural killer cells. You see how it verticalizes infinitely, and that how that accelerates the two primary drivers of the business, which is decreased time to value and more value per dollar spent. So it's like, if you look back at the call I did a year ago, the stock is up 2x since then. Obviously, that call was the most directionally accurate. I don't think anyone was really expecting that. And if you come back to the logic, which I do and I expose here, and whenever I get it wrong, I sort of obviously own up to it and fix it and learn from it. That's the whole point of doing this. If you look at the logic, it's sound. And I think it's going to continue being predictive. So I think it's fairly disappointing when people criticize these calls, which obviously make their mind explode. So I can be compassionate in that sense. I do understand. They're not really addressing the logic. No one cares. I don't care either because I just continue getting richer, right? And I think that this company is going to do very well. I'm up what now? 27x, worth a couple $1 million, up from actually not a large amount of money at the beginning. So yeah. Also, a lot of people say, well, where's the proof for stuff that you do and that you say you do and everything? And who else was saying this over the past year? No one else was saying this thing is going much higher. Everyone else was saying, oh, this is a bubble, this is a bubble. I'm so comfortable betting against people like that because there's no actual logic. It's just knee-jerk analogy-based reasoning. That's all it is. Hopefully someone comes and gives me a counter argument for the logic, because that would make me learn faster. But at the moment, this is what's playing out. This doesn't mean that AI scaling laws persist forever, but so long as I see them persisting, I'm just not going to change my mind, and I'm going to continue making a fortune. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining me. There's a few coupons left that I made available 2 days ago to obtain lifetime access to my course. So every single version of the course and community with over 500 deep divers that have taken the course already and that you will find tremendously enriching to talk to for just $329 instead of $399. So that's a $70 discount, pretty meaningful in relative terms for what is this product. And I can guarantee that the vast majority of you are going to love it, because out of nearly 1,000 sales thus far, there's only been a few tenths of refunds. And so statistically, I can now say that you guys most likely, 98% of you guys, 99 are absolutely going to love it. If you don't, you get a 14-day money back, no questions asked guarantee. You just send me an email. I don't ask any question. I just refund you. And I continue iterating on this course forever. So now version 2.3 is live. Version 2.4 is coming based on the feedback I've picked up over the past month. And I'm so excited because customers continue to love this thing. You guys can buy it here in the show's footnotes. You can use code AMD at checkout and you get the discount immediately. I think there's only something like 15. So it continues to sell like hotcakes. I'm extremely proud of what I do. Talking about narratives, I think cores have a very bad reputation. But one, I think I have an extraordinary track record. Two, I think the product is so incredibly good. And you can ask any customer that has taken it. Definitely better than anything I've ever consumed at any university. And I've been to the top universities in Spain and in London, actually, for various things. And it's just better than anything I've ever consumed. Whenever I was learning about investing in university, it was often by people who actually had never made a single successful pick. Here you have me doing tremendous picks in front of everyone, being called stupid and crazy and whatever, and actually winning. So the logic is there. It's very rooted on a first principles basis kind of thinking, and I think it's I know, because my customers have told me it's incredibly transferable to any other problem you want to solve in life. Personally, as you may know, I'm using that framework, which is, by the way, just the way my mind naturally works, to solve a problem I've had in medicine over the past few years, and quite successfully. I'll keep you guys posted on that, but just not here because of the algorithmic overlords. But yeah, it's a product that I think you will love, and it absolutely pays whatever you invest. In the average case, I think 10 or 100 times over. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. As always, if you enjoyed this video, this update, could you please share this with one friend whom you think will enjoy it? These updates and deep dives are for free, and so the only way this grows is with your help. Thank you very much in advance. Take care and see you guys next time.